Hi, this is the Stone Mill Elementary School's data overview presented by myself, Brandy Pryor, academic coach at the school. Stone Mill Elementary is located in Stone Mountain, Georgia, and is a part of the DeKalb County School District. This data overview will present Stone Mill Elementary's academic and demographic data over a 3 to 4 year period. The presentation will include comparisons between the local school, district, and state results of the Georgia Milestones Assessment. The overall goal of the presentation is to tell a story about Stone Mill's history for the past 3 years with an emphasis on understanding and improving the CCRPI score. As you listen to the presentation, please consider these questions. What trends do you observe between the data sets? What are the current strengths in the data? What weaknesses do you notice in the data? And how can analyzing this data help to improve the CCRPI score? We're going to begin with student enrollment. Enrollment at Stone Mill Elementary School has dropped over the years. From 2016, we began at 798 students, and then 2017 dropped about 40 students. 2018 went up 20, but then in 2019, our numbers dropped 181 students. The enrollment by race, our school over the last 4 years has a mostly African American population. The other races are about similar with the amount of students we have. So, I apologize. Actually, the second population would be that we're big on is the Hispanic population. As you can see, even though the numbers drop, the green bar is the second highest for all 4 years. And then we have a very small Asian and white population. Comparing our black students to what the district has, Stone Mill Elementary School actually has more African American students than the district. So if we just want to look at 2019, 76% of the population is black versus the district, 62% of the population is black. With the Hispanic population comparison from the school to the district, the numbers are more similar. In 2016, both the district and the local school had about 15% of their population Hispanic. 2017, the district had slightly more with 18% to 17%. And then 2018, both the district and the local school had 18% of their population Hispanic. Student enrollment over the years, if we want to look at attendance, from 2016 to 2017, our blue bar is representing that 13% of these school students had 0 absences, which was the same for 17-18 and then decreased a little bit in 18-19 with the 0 absences. From 1 to 5 absences, from 2016-2017 school year, we have 45% of the population, and then that increased to 48% for the following school year, but decreased for the 18-19 school year to 37%. So less students there, missing 1 to 5 days. The 6 to 10 absences from the 2016-17 school year and 17-18, we were both at 24 up to 22, down to 22%, and then that also increased again for the 18-19 year to 25%. The greatest difference occurred with the number of students, or the percentage of the population that missed more than 10 days. So you notice that in 2016-17, 26% of the population missed more than 10 days. It decreased to 17%, but then increased almost 10 points to the 10% from the 2018-2019 school year. So therefore, in that school year, more students were missing more than 10 days. And as we know, if you're not at school, you are not learning the academic curriculum, so you are missing some important instruction, which could affect test results. Economically disadvantaged students at Stone Mill Elementary School. The economically disadvantaged percentage represents the percentage of students who are directly certified as being able to receive supplemental nutrition assistance like food stamp benefits or temporary assistance for needy families benefits. So the entire school actually receives free or reduced lunch, but due to an increase in the U.S. Department of Agriculture's community eligibility provision, free and reduced lunch is no longer a reliable measure of student poverty. Therefore, in order to be qualified or certified as economically disadvantaged, you would have to be receiving, someone in the house would have to be receiving either food stamps or temporary housing assistance. Or they could be identified as homeless, unaccompanied youth, foster, or migrant. Therefore, over half of our population qualifies and they receive either food stamps or housing assistance, 63%. So we do have a low socioeconomic status of student population, which also could affect the digital divide with students having access to technology outside of the school hours. Teachers. We have a total number of 45 certified staff, and looking at the population by race, well, most of our staff is African American. We have 44 African American teachers, 2 white, and 1 Hispanic. By gender, we have 41 females and 6 males. Teacher experience. We have 3 new teachers, so 3 teachers that have less than 1 year of teaching experience. The highest category is the 1 to 10 year category. We have 16 teachers that fall in that category. The number of teachers that have 11 to 20 years, we have 12 teachers and 3 administrators that have 11 to 20 years. And it is noted that a lot of these that are in this category could be moved. They're only 1 or 2 years away from the 21 to 30. In the 21 to 30 category, we do have 9 teachers, 2 administrators, and then we do have 2 teachers that have over 30 years teaching. Therefore, looking at this data, almost half of our teacher population has less than 10 years of teaching. Now, getting into CCRPI, College and Career Ready Performance Index. We would like to compare the school to district comparison from the 2016 to 2019 school years. Now, starting with 2016, Stone Mill actually had a higher CCRPI score than the district in 2016. Wasn't by much, it was 3 points, but it was higher. In Stone Mill, in 2017, Stone Mill increased their CCRPI as well as the district, and Stone Mill was still a little bit above the districts. In 2018, the district kind of caught up with them, actually increased by 0.9 of a point, so they're about even, Stone Mill and DeKalb. However, in 2019, we see a dramatic difference. The 2019 CCRPI score for the school decreased by 4 points, while the districts increased by 8. So therefore, again, the purpose of this overview is to figure out what happened with the CCRPI score and develop an action plan to make improvements. So in order to figure that out, we need to go a little bit deeper into what happened with the CCRPI score. Therefore, we're going to only analyze the 2018 to 2019 scores. The Georgia Department of Education revised the CCRPI calculation in 2018. Therefore, the 2018 scores are not comparable to prior years. So we will only look at 18 and 19. Now, the CCRPI components that make the total score all have different qualifications or definitions to help calculate that score. Content mastery is the student's ability to master the content, either ELA, science, social studies, or math. So therefore, the content mastery for STOMIL actually increased a little bit from the 2018 to 2019 school year. So with it increasing, that was not an issue that caused the overall decrease in the CCRPI score. When we're looking at progress is, are the students growing at a typical or high level compared to academically similar students from across Georgia? So progress looks at student growth percentiles. Basically, if the student is performing at 76% here at STOMIL Elementary School and they grew 4 points, is that about the same amount of points that a student that scored, that was performing at 76% in South Georgia, did they also grow 4 points? So are they progressing? And in this category, we did lose a couple of points. We lost about almost 2-3 points for ensuring that our students are growing compared to academically similar students. Closing gaps measures whether all students and subgroups are making improvements in achievement and is based on CCRPI improvement targets for academic achievement. So it also, like progress, is measuring whether the students are improving. And we will go into this one a little bit deeper because, as you notice looking at the data, that closing gaps, the school lost 20 points in this category from the 2018 to 2019 school year. Readiness. Readiness is the student's ability, measures attendance. Are the students coming to school on time? And with this one, the school lost about 2 points there. School climate was pretty high for the 2018-2019 school year. Did lose about 3 points, but overall the school lost 4 points. So again, since closing gaps had the greatest difference or decrease, it is an inference to make that we're going to analyze closing gaps so that we can see an increase for the following school year, which should affect our overall score. So, just to talk a little bit further about closing gaps, 2018 to 2019. Closing gaps demonstrates a school's ability to improve students' achievement for all subgroups. 6% improvement targets are set for economically disadvantaged, English learners, and students with disabilities. And if we're looking at the STOMIL population again, we see that we have these categories pretty large in the 2018-2019 school year. So, schools can earn 0 points if performance does not improve. If in one of these categories their performance does not improve, one of the subgroups, we will get 0 points. And then you get half a point if progress is made, but through 3% target is not met. So 3% of the subgroup, if they do not meet, then that would be they improve but did not meet the 3%, that's going to be a yellow flag. And 1 point if the 3% target of the subgroup is met, then we get 1 point, and that would be indicated by a green flag. And then we can earn 1.5 points when one of these subgroups, economically disadvantaged, ELL, and students with disability, meet 6% of the target. So 6% of the population of those subgroups meet, then we would earn 1.5 points. So as you're looking here at this data, this is pulled from the 2019 CCRPI score. You will notice that flags were earned for all students in English Language Arts, Black, Hispanic students. We did not earn any points, any flags for ELL, English Language Arts, but economically disadvantaged, as mentioned earlier, that's over 63% of the school. We earned 6% of the staff of the population did reach their goal, their target. And then students with disabilities, we got yellow, so they're showing improvement, but did not meet the 3% target. That was for English Language Arts. Looking at the math, there are a lot more red flags where points were not earned for closing those gaps, so improvement is not being shown. For those, we have some yellow flags for Black and students with disability, but mostly red. Science did an outstanding job. We have all green flags there, 1 point, and then we have some stars, so 6% of those groups met, and we got 1.5 points. But social studies was all red. Social studies has a lot to do with the reading, and therefore that is another area that we will have to improve on. So just to get an overall view of how these numbers came to be, the CCRPI score is based on the Georgia Milestones Assessment. So just looking at the 2019 school score for beginning level learners, developing learners, proficient, and distinguished, the ability for the teachers to move students from one achievement level to the next helps to improve or shows that we're closing gaps. Therefore, it's important for us to look at the distribution of student proficiency so we can see where we need to go. So our school, 44% of our population is scoring for English Language Arts, is scoring in the beginning level learner, where the district has 35 and the state 26. Developing learner, we're about a little bit closer to the school district and state, when they're all in the 30s. Proficient learners, the state is above the district and the school at 31%, so the school can make some achieve gaps, close some gaps there, and then distinguish as well. So overall, the moving students from the beginning learner to developing learner would help get us closer on track with the district and the state, and also close those gaps. For math, the school for beginning learner has more students, again, at the beginning learner for math, 31%. Close, the district actually has more than that, at beginning learner at 34%, but the state is at 22%. Developing school is the highest with the number of students at the developing learner level. State and district are very similar. Proficient, state is well above. The district and the state are, the district and the school are very similar. And then distinguished school can make up some ground there by moving some students from one domain to the next. We're going to also look at science and social studies, as those are indicated by flags as well. Beginning learners, we have 41% of our population at beginning learners. District has a little bit more, state is less, has less beginning learners at 34%. For developing learners, we're at 32%, district 27, state 28. So those are a little bit closer for developing. Proficient, state is at 28, school 25, and district at 23. And then distinguished, we're well below the state and the district at 3% of our population being categorized as distinguished. For social studies, please be reminded this is the category that we got all red flags, no points. So looking at the beginning learner, we are well above with 48% of our population showing beginning learner for social studies. So this is a area where we can really make up some ground and try to focus and hone in on. 22% of the state is at beginning learner. It's a big difference. 34% of the district. Looking at developing learner, it's a little bit closer. Schools still at 49%, having the highest number of students at developing. District and state close with 43 and 42%. Proficient, only 2% of our population is scoring proficient. Again, big difference between the state, 23%, district at 16%, and same for distinguished. We have 2% of our population scoring at the distinguished learner, and 12% of the state, 8% of the population of the district. Therefore, major ground can be made up with moving students from the beginning learner to developing and developing to proficient for social studies. Now, since closing gaps is focused on subgroups, I do want to discuss a little bit more about the ELL students, the number of students at each proficiency level for ELL, as that is one of our subgroups. So this shows you that of the students that tested, we had 40 ELL students. 50% of them scored at the beginning learner. Of our non-ELL, 43% scored. So we had a little bit more at the beginning for ELL, English Language Arts. Of those 40 students, 35% of them scored developing ELL, and 15% scored proficient. We did not have any ELL students to score distinguished. Math, we have 40 students tested. 35% of them scored at the beginning. We have a little bit more with the math. 40% of the ELL scored developing, 23% proficient, and 3% distinguished. Our students with disabilities is another one of our subgroups, so we do want to look at how they scored on the Georgia Milestones. So our students with disabilities, we had a total of 25 students that tested. 73% of them for English Language Arts scored on the beginning level learner. And then 27% of those were at developing. And so there is another area where we can try to close some gaps and move those students from beginning to developing. For math, our students with disabilities, we had 25 students that actually tested for this one, and 80% of those students scored at the beginning level, 20% developing, and we did not have any to score proficient or distinguished. Therefore, our strengths, we had students enrolled in the Scanner Homework Center, and they showed growth in the Georgia Milestones Assessment. A lot of those students were some of the Hispanic students, the Hispanic population, which helped with the ELL. Reading achievement improved due to a balancing literacy approach with the emphasis on guided reading, which is also part of our school improvement plan. We, being sure that we are providing that differentiated guided instruction on students' Lexile levels is important to helping to close achievement gaps. Also, the school did participate in some compacting in which students were being able to be grouped on the level that they're on so that teachers can provide some more differentiated instruction. Our weaknesses. Implementing Number Talk with Fidelity. Number Talks was a school improvement strategy that was pretty new to the staff last year, but that is something that we can use to help close achievement gaps so that students become more fluent with their math. Closing gaps using response to intervention and differentiated instruction is definitely a weakness. As you can see from the data, the CCRPI data, we must provide instruction based on the student's current level in order to move them. Lack of enrichment for the high-performing students in mathematics, that's also a weakness because that would close some gaps and show that students are moving from the proficient to the distinguished level. Our absenteeism, the number of students that were absent, was also a weakness as it increased in the 2018-2019 school year. And most of our staff have less than 20 years. So that is a weakness. So we must build teacher capacity through coaching. So our next steps, we're going to analyze the recent iReady growth checks, unit assessment, and benchmarks for each teacher's homeroom. The teachers will then identify, are there any students in your class that would be classified in a subgroup? If so, how many? And of those students, which ones are showing improvement? Which ones are showing regression? We also want to be sure that we identify students that are in two subgroups and students that are projected to change performance bands, because those students that are identified in two subgroups would be classified as high impact because they could hit us in more than one category. And then we also want to be sure that we're identifying students that are candidates for retention, letting their parents know so that early, so that interventions can be put into place to change that trajectory. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the Stone Mill Data Overview. I appreciate your attention.